Flawless victory. Flawless victory. Flawless victory.
How y'all doing? Thank you very, very much to those of you contacting me and checking on me. There's no need. Absolutely no need. I mean, I'm grateful. Of course, I'm grateful that you are, but there's no need. So what's gone on? What's gone on is really straightforward. What's gone on is really straightforward. What these people are doing is they are abusing their positions of power to attack me, because at the end of the day, we are where we are in part because of how I have been able to connect with so many of you and find a way for all of us together to navigate the situation that we find ourselves in. I mean, that's essentially what is taking place here. So you shouldn't worry about it at all. Parliamentary privilege was never meant for this sort of thing. It was never meant for cheap political point scoring to attack members of the public in this way. So it's interesting. It's very, very interesting. I will, of course, go through it properly on Sunday if I'm here on Sunday. I am at Montaz's on Sunday, so those of you who are coming, and I think it's an open invite, so you all should be there. It's you know, there's a party at the is it the Grand Venue? I'm not sure which one it is, so you'll have to excuse me. It's the Grand Venue. There's a party at the Grand Venue. It says 1 o'clock. I won't get there until 1:30 in the afternoon on Sunday, and I'm going to go and hang out with some of my old friends from Westwood. Sorry, I found this. This was the issue of the day. Have I got a Twix left in my house? And I found one at the bottom of the cupboard. So my day has been made. No, so this is the strange thing, really. So the Manchester Evening News put that article up like they do, and they said he can't comment for legal reasons. That's nonsense. What would normally happen? What would normally happen in a functioning newspaper? You know, in one that's fit for purpose, rather than some Labour Party, whatever it is. What they should have done is, once McMahon made those statements about me, they should have reached out and contacted me and offered me a right to react and respond to what McMahon said about me, rather than just publishing a one-way article. So that was never going to work. You know, they were never going to do that, were they? They weren't. Do you really think they were ever going to give me an opportunity to say my piece in my way? No. And then the reason why they blocked all the comments is because it doesn't matter anymore. The tide's turned. The people of my town, the people of our town, they do know who is telling the truth here. They do know who is telling lies. And apart from a few remnants of a few Pakistani mobsters and some of the cartel boys, he has very little support left. So the Manchester Evening News turned off its comments because it wanted to stop you from giving them a piece of your mind. It's got nothing to do with legal reasons. It's got absolutely nothing to do with legal reasons. Because the legal reasons didn't come from me. They've not even spoke to me. They've not even contacted me. What I find really, I don't say disappointing is the wrong word, but it's where we are, isn't it? This man has been exposed, hasn't he? That's what's happened. McMahon and Abrahams have been exposed for what they are. They've tried to have me arrested. They've doctored evidence. I don't know what that car bombing was. I'll let you lot decide what that car bombing was. I think it was a setup, is what I think it was, an attempted setup. They've gone to every government department, every agency, and they're still at it. And and what was telling is that fewer and fewer Labour Party politicians are willing to stand alongside them. Come on, who's going to ruin their career? Who's going to run the career for a proven bully? Because that's what Debbie Abrams is. She lost her position on the shadow cabinet because she was proven to have been a bully. And a man like McMahon, who's going to put their careers under risk, not just for their own personal relationships with these people, but on the issue of child sex exploitation. On the issue of child sex exploitation. He's claiming that my actions are undermining the review and somehow impacting upon victims' abilities to get justice. He can't substantiate any of that. What I am doing is highlighting, is critiquing the shortcomings of the review. Now, in a democracy, is that not what we're meant to do? Or is it that we should take this review as gospel, stick my tongue out, see how far I can shove it up someone's behind, and carry on? What are we meant to do? Are we not allowed to critique? Are we not allowed to ask a simple question such as, how can a review into the historical the grooming and gang rape of our town's children attempt to publish its findings without interviewing a single victim? How is that right? How can an investigation attempt to publish its findings without speaking to a single victim? How can we remain silent whilst the very victims are coming out and saying that the MP what have they said? Corrupt? A liar? A liar? How can we sit silent and ignore it? Let's have a look at what the article says and let's work our way through it, because I'm not really interested in swearing at him or shout at him, if I'm honest with you today, because there's no point. There's absolutely no point. What I'll do is just demonstrate how outrageous the allegations are and what a coward he is. What a coward he is. They won't say anything outside the high scary. They're not even, I mean, put me aside. They've cancelled their surgeries. McMahon, the MP for Oldham Western Refuting, the former leader of the council, who was responsible at the time these children were being groomed and gang raped in these shisha bars, he won't meet parents in this town. He won't meet them. Anyone want to meet me? Phone me. I'll meet you. I was in town yesterday meeting people. He, one of the most senior politicians in this country, is refusing to meet his constituents. He's not got any surgeries. Just make it a bit bigger. Former charity boss accused in Parliament of spreading hate, racism and disinformation in relation to child sexual abuse in Oldham. Lovely picture. Lovely picture. Why do they omit my MBE, do you think? Why do they omit that? Oldham Western Refuting MP JIM McMAHON used parliamentary privilege to accuse Raja Mia of seeking to make financial and political gain by spreading hate, racism and disinformation on his online blog. Financial gain and political gain. I am not a member of any political party. And the last political party I was a member of was the Labour Party, the same party that JIM McMAHON belongs to. So I'm not making any political gain. And those of you who followed my online blog, for want of a better term, will have seen that I criticise accordingly. I do not take sides. I criticised yesterday. I criticised the Conservatives. I've exposed Lib Dem, child sex offenders. And I've criticised the Labour Party. I've even criticised Brian Hoban and FIP when I thought they did wrong. So how can I have political gain when, if anything, I am apolitical? The only priority I've had is the priority of my town and putting my town first. And I've worked with politicians of all political sides, and I've opposed politicians of all political sides. So there's no political gain for me. Let's talk about the financial gain. Let me share something with you. Financial gain, yeah? My online blog. This is my online blog. This is the most I've ever earned. £408 a month. Well, not the most I've ever earned, but you know, in the scheme of things. Up to last month, the £400 or so that I'd take in, I had to give a big chunk of that out. I had to give a big chunk of that out for my overheads. But the crowdfunder got us over the line. It's for the first time ever that the income I'm getting is basically my income. I don't have to pay it out on a whole host of subscriptions and bills. For the last 3 years, I've made nothing. So I think it was in May or June. This is the first month. No, this is the first month. June was the first month when I cleared something around £100 a month. Why? So where's the financial gain? £100 a week. Is that financial gain? And that's only now for the last 4 years. Do you see the financial gain? No. Of course you don't. Of course you don't. I put out yesterday a piece of work in the morning, and I thought it was a substantive piece of work. You all saw it. It was a substantive piece of work. And I'm not blaming, pointing fingers at anyone. So this isn't it, but I think it's important that I show you. Yesterday, the 30th of June, 2 people bought me coffees. 6 coffees. You can see it there. 30th of June, David Stewart Cole, very lovely. And Jason Horsfall. You can see those are the only 2 bits from yesterday. That's £12. That's what I earned yesterday. It was £12. So financial gain here. And political gain. Financial and political gain. So we can put that one to bed. We can put that one to bed. Now, I'm spreading hate, racism and disinformation. Let's take one of them at a time. Let's take one of each of these things at a time. How am I spreading hate? What is the hate I am spreading? I have maintained from the outset the only way we make our town better is by political engagement, education and voting. That's not the spreading of hate. If you care about something, my position has always been this, if you care about something, understand it, understand how you can make a difference and politically educate yourself and act accordingly at the ballot box. What element of that is hate? What element of that is hate? Racism. Let's move on to racism. Racism essentially is the belief that one form of people are superior to another or should be prioritized over another. So racism promotes the belief that one group of people are better, are superior to another. And then there's an implementation of a whole host of systems and processes to make sure that takes place. That's what racism is. I should know. I was once considered an expert in it. So if that is what racism is, what have I been doing is saying that the working class white girls in our town, their safety has been overlooked in preference of maintaining community relations. They don't matter. So who are the victims here? Who are the victims of racism here? Come on, let's play this out. Who are the victims of on the issues that I've been talking about? Who are the victims of racism? Who are the ones without power? It's the white working class girls. Yes, it's our children that this report was forced to confirm were groomed and gang raped and failed. So I'm clearly not being racist towards these children. So am I being racist towards those who've committed the crimes against these children? By making reference to this group, by making reference to this group, doesn't make me a racist. It points out a challenge we have in this community. Pakistani, Bangladeshi, Muslim, there's a challenge for us. Challenge for men who look like me. So I'm not in any way spreading racism. Trying to protect vulnerable young children who, because of their race, who, because of their ethnic background, have been failed, does not make me the racist. It demonstrates what I have been for 25 years of my life. In my professional career, a dedicated, committed anti-racist. Imagine, just for a moment, imagine if we turned it around. And Bangladeshi or Pakistani Muslim girls were being groomed and gang raped by gangs of white rape gangs. Imagine if we turned it around. Refusing to fight for those Muslim girls, Pakistani girls, Bangladeshi girls, just swap the demographics around. Refusing to fight for them, refusing to acknowledge what was being done to them, and refusing to recognize the racial dynamic of what was taking place would make me a racist. In today's world, that would make me a racist, and I think that would be right. I would be a racist. I would be a racist if I refused to look at the grooming and gang rape of Muslim girls by white men. But here we have one of the most senior politicians in this land calling me a racist or spreading racism because I refuse to turn the other way whilst white children, powerless white children, are being groomed and gang raped, and what has been done to them, as confirmed in this report, has been covered up, has been hidden from you and I and my townsfolk for the fear of community relations. We don't want to upset what we've got. Can you imagine that? And apparently I'm the racist here. And then he talks about disinformation. He talks about disinformation. Let me show you something. Perfect. This is the terms of reference. These are the actual terms of reference. I don't know what that thing's doing now. Let me just be a bit of a cut. Oh, no, wait. These are the actual terms of reference of the assurance review. 8th of January 2020. You can see it there. Only 7 pages. This is the scope. To review the practice of Oldham Council in partnership with its statutory safeguarding agencies in response to allegations of CSE between 2011 and 2014. You can see how narrow that timescale is. And this is what they were specifically asked to do. Now, let me just make this bigger so you can see it. This is what they were specifically asked to do. 1. Statutory agencies were aware of this abuse. So this is the disinformation allegedly. So my first claim was statutory agencies were aware of this abuse. That's the first thing they were looking at. The second thing they're looking at is that these statutory agencies failed to respond appropriately to safeguard children. And the third thing they were looking at is whether these statutory agencies covered up these failings. Yeah. That was the overarching scope of this, yeah? So let's look at this disinformation. This review, did it or did it not confirm that statutory agencies were aware of this abuse? It did. It confirmed statutory agencies were aware of this abuse. Did it or did it not confirm that Oldham Council and Greater Manchester Police failed to respond appropriately to safeguard children? Yes or a no? And finally, did it or did it not confirm that these failings were covered up by the statutory agencies? So the scope, the 3 areas of the scope of this review have been confirmed as factually accurate. Not by me, but by the very review, in the findings in the review. The second element of these terms of reference are subject and location specific. So let me go through each of the subjects and location specifics. Allegations were made on social media about 1. Children from local shisha establishments. Risks posed to children. It's confirmed in the report that children were being dragged off the street. They were being groomed and gang raped in these shisha bars. Confirmed. So there's no disinformation there. It's confirmed in this report. Adults had inappropriate access to children and young people, residents in children's home in Oldham, putting them at risk. Confirmed children were put at risk in children's home, but furthermore, as the testimony of child A proved, this is testimony that they refused to take and then hid their own case files in a secret appendix in this report. The testimony of child A proved that while she was in a children's home, in a residential children's home, men were signing in with their ID, going to her bedroom and raping her. Men were signing in, going to her bedroom and raping her. So that's factually accurate. The nature and extent of the use of local taxi services to access children and young people for the purposes of sexual exploitation once again confirmed. Oldham Council were giving out licences to known convicted child sex offenders. So the scope of the review of what it was looking at has all been proven to be true. And the actual concerns are proven to be true so far, all of them. Now let's have a look, continue with these concerns. Allegations or concerns expressed in relation to specific cases. This, in its entirety, is to do with Sam's case. This in its entirety is to do with Sam case. So this is no longer an allegation. It's been proven to be factually correct and true. The cases of known offenders previously employed with Oldham Council and the extent to which the historical actions and employment records had been adequately investigated by the council. Third point, Shabir Ahmed, factually 100% true. So we're at 100% of everything so far, yeah? Absolutely everything is confirmed. But GMP will support the review by sharing progress on Operation Hexagon. Also confirmed in there that the review team is somehow linked to Operation Hexagon, which is a police and council operation to go after whistleblowers and victims of CSE. So there you go. So everything in terms of the scope and the specific concerns have been proven to be 100% accurate. They're going about the methodology. And this is the interesting bit. In the methodology, when you look back, it confirms that the methodology has no intention of interviewing victims. Review and evaluate all reports and information. There you go. Any whistleblowing allegations during the review. Audit. Annual reports. Serious case reviews. Audits. Interviews with individuals who have made significant allegations. I've refused. They've refused to record it. Preliminary interviews with senior officers in Oldham Council. Many of them refused. Here you go. To facilitate access to case records, reports, correspondence and other information relevant to the review's inquiry, a data processing agreement will be agreed between GMCA, the review team and Oldham Council. There you go. They're hiding. The very people who failed the children are the ones responsible for providing the review team with information. Additional assurance. Two additional assurances. The first one is in respect of the conduct of individuals employed by the council. We now know that to be true. Shabir Ahmed and and whether or not CSE was not appropriately identified. We also now know that to be true. That's it. There's governance. Can you see what's missing in this? This is what they were tasked to do. This is what they were tasked to do. What is missing in this? It was not in the review. It was not in Malcolm Newsom or Gary Ridgway's terms of reference to determine whether there had been a cover-up. It was in their terms of reference to determine whether children had been failed. It was not in their terms of reference to determine if political reasons, votes, whatever, was a factor, because they are not specialists or experts in determining that or coming to conclusions on that. Yet when you read everything, the focus is it wasn't for politics, it wasn't for votes. Yet here we have, that was not one of the questions that they were tasked to look at. That was not one of the questions that they were tasked to look at. They were tasked to look at 3 specific issues. Were statutory agencies aware of the abuse? Did they fail to respond appropriately to safeguard children? And then afterwards, did they cover up their failings? There's nothing at all on the 4th question, which is why did they cover up their failings? Newsom and Ridgway had no right to protect JIM McMAHON because it was outside of the remit of the review. And therefore, their conclusions have no credibility. Have no credibility whatsoever. And McMahon knows this, and Debbie Abrahams knows this, which is why they're now coming after me. And they've now got involved in this nonsense. And I'll go back to, let me go back to this. Apparently, I'm on a self-declared campaign of revenge, which is, whatever you want, believe whatever you want. Apparently, I'm diverting focus away from justice for victims. My last significant piece of work on Sunday night was to share with you testimony that was suppressed of a victim. Testimony from a victim that was suppressed. That was my last major piece of work. Do you see how they're always made reference to as experts? Don't go on about Sophie's case, but we know. Here we go. Mr. McMahon speaking in the comments says, "We have seen it before with far-right protests taking to the street, smearing whole communities and setting out to divide." Monday, Tuesday, I disagreed with one of you. Strongly disagreed with one of you on what I considered to be racist, and I wasn't going somewhere. I don't speak to people because of their endorsement of Tommy Robinson, because I think we're better than that and we're not going to go into that space. We're not looking to smear whole communities. We're looking to unite communities, because if we don't deal with this issue, it's going to fester and it's going to get worse. And it's increasingly significant with the rise of social media and conspiracy theorists. Where's the conspiracy theorists? Everything that I've raised, that this assurance review was tasked to look into, has been confirmed as accurate. Everything that I have raised that has been included in the terms of reference of this assurance review has been proven to be true. We need to be clear with people of Oldham about the motivations that sit behind this. Has little to do with being a victim's champion. I'm a race equality expert. I'm a community cohesion expert. You can't take those things away from me. I specialise in building resilient communities and safeguarding them from extremist narratives. And my position has always been very clear on this. We deal with these issues, and by dealing with these issues, we take them away from the far right, and then people who would otherwise be drawn to those extremist narratives come to people like me and are safeguarded and can engage on these issues responsibly. And I'll go back here and I'll show you again. We have seen it before with far right wing protests that taken onto the streets. I encourage everyone to vote. I encouraged everyone to go to the council meeting. It was an extraordinary council meeting. I encourage people to go. I encourage people to ask questions through the appropriate mechanisms. And I repeatedly have said this is not about smearing whole communities, because I am clear on this. Whatever the perpetrator's background, I've maintained that those who covered it up are actually worse than those who've done it. And this is just a complete lie, but you can lie about me all you want. Apparently, I presided over a catalogue of serious safeguarding incidents, ranging from violence against pupils to child abuse in schools. Absolute nonsense. Absolute nonsense, because if any of that was true, the Department of Education would have published it and says Raja Miah was responsible for presiding over violence against pupils and child abuse in schools. But let's just go back a little bit. On Sunday night, I released testimony that a child was forced to give oral sex in a school, whilst JIM McMAHON was the leader of the council, and that was covered up. He responded to a catalogue of abuse at the Collective Free Spirit at school as lies. Well, they are lies. Demonstrate. He won't do it outside of parliamentary privilege. Demonstrate where I have presided over anything that he claims. A serious case review by Manchester Safeguarding Partnership where failings at the school prolonged the sexual abuse of a victim. Absolute lie. A serious case review did not confirm my role in anything to do with the prolonged sexual abuse of a victim. It's just a complete fabrication. The man's a liar. You can sue me. The man's a liar. None of this is true. Allegations of teachers sexualising children. What on earth is he on about? And basic measures like background checks not carried out. Again, absolute nonsense. The safeguarding register was falsified by staff during an inspection. When? Where did it involve me in any of this? But this is the best bit. Say for 1 second. Say for 1 second, every allegation he makes against me is true. For 1 minute, let's have that. Every allegation he makes against me is true. How does that deflect or distract away from what has now been exposed regarding the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of my town's children, and an acknowledgement in the report that they put community cohesion and the fear of the far right ahead of the safety of our children? Apparently, it was my motivation to hide these other failings to do with me, apparently, which is why I started a campaign of abuse, harassment and division. Who am I harassing? Who am I dividing? Who am I abusing? Well, I'm definitely abusing him and his mates. And apparently I'm not genuinely determined to move forward. He wants to move forward and repair the hurt. How do you repair the hurt? How do you repair? It's not what are you going to do differently to create the environment where people can come together to work towards. What on earth is he talking about? Here, you'll see. He feels that the question is, for those of us that are genuinely determined to move forward and to repair the hurt, what are we going to do differently to create the environment where people can come together to work towards fighting against the evil of child abuse? No. Justice is not about repairing the hurt and moving forward. Justice starts with holding those responsible accountable for their failings, for their crimes, and those who've protected them for their failings. That's where justice starts. You can't rebuild trust without holding to account those who betrayed the trust. And he feels I'm undermining the report. Is there anything wrong with critiquing a report so full of holes? That focuses on findings it wasn't tasked to look into, thereby protecting McMahon and his ilk, rather than what it was supposed to actually look into. This report is not fit for purpose. We will continue in our campaign for a judge-led public inquiry into the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of our town's children. We do not believe a 3-year window is sufficient at all. And nor do we believe that an assurance review that sought to publish its findings without speaking to a single victim whatsoever is in any way fit for purpose. Samantha raised it. How can the very agencies who failed them be responsible for deciding what goes in the report? What information is being shared? What evidence is being shared? It is riddled with holes. And the report is constructed the way it is because it wants to protect those politicians and senior council officers who are responsible. Please like, please share. I'm sorry for the impromptu thing, but I thought it was easier if I just shared it this way. I thought it'd be easy if I just shared it this way. They can keep using my picture. They can keep calling me a racist, a spreader of hate, disinformation. They can hide in Parliament where they're protected. You won't stand in front of me and say that. He wouldn't have the courage. And she wouldn't. She's worse of a weasel. She's a bully, isn't she? She's a confirmed bully. Absolute joke. I'll set up a crowdfunder. Thanks, Jim. I'm going to set up a crowdfunder. I'm going to go away and set up a crowdfunder. How much does a councillor earn? What's the basic allowance? £10,000? I'm going to set up a crowdfunder, Jim. I'm not going to go anywhere. This town isn't going to go anywhere. We're going to see you out. And we're going to see all of your Labour Party chums and your council officers out who are complicit in the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of our town's children. It's proven. Every feature of the scope of the terms of reference and the concerns within the terms of reference have been proven to be true. So where's the conspiracy theory? The spread of hate and the real racist here, confirmed racists, are members of the Labour Party. Have a good weekend. I'll speak to you all soon.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.